I invited my ex to my wedding, and my fiancé secretly uninvited him. Weddings are supposed to be one of the happiest days of our lives, a celebration of love, commitment, and the promise of forever. But behind every flower arrangement, every carefully chosen playlist, and every guest list, there's another truth. Weddings don't just reveal love, they reveal boundaries. And sometimes those boundaries don't break. They bend, quietly, until they snap. In today's story, from r/Am I the Asshole, we meet a groom who made what he believed was a respectful choice. He invited someone from his past, not to stir drama, not to reopen wounds, but because he saw no harm in including a person who had once meant a lot to him. His fiancée agreed. At least, that's what she said out loud. She smiled, she nodded. She said, "If it means something to you, then it's okay." But days before the wedding, the guest quietly vanished from the list. No explanation, no warning, just a silent deletion, and a digital trail that told a very different story. Now, the groom feels betrayed. Not because of the missing guest, but because of the missing trust. And his fiancée? She says she simply did what he refused to do, protect their marriage before it even began. So now, we ask, was this just a miscommunication? Or a warning sign of deeper cracks? Because sometimes a simple yes isn't really a yes. It's a placeholder, a quiet hope that the other person will figure it out without being told. I'm a 31-year-old man, and in just under 2 months, I'm supposed to marry the woman I love, Laura, who's 29. We've been together for 3 amazing years. She's thoughtful, driven, smart, and honestly, I've never felt more sure about anyone in my life. We've been planning our wedding together from day one, side by side. Every decision, from the venue to the seating chart, has been a shared conversation. And for the most part, it's been smooth. Until we hit one particular topic, my ex-girlfriend. Her name is Kira. We dated for 5 years before breaking up about 4 years ago. It was mutual. No cheating, no scandals. Just 2 people growing apart. But we stayed friends, not best friends. Not daily texting, heart-reacting every post friends. Just friends. We catch up every couple months, exchange birthday wishes, grab coffee when she's in town. It's cordial, not emotional. Laura has always known about Kira. They've met once or twice. Polite, not close. And honestly, I never thought it was an issue. So when it came time to finalize our guest list, I did what I thought was respectful. I brought it up to Laura directly. I said, "Hey, I know this might be a little awkward, but would you be okay if I invited Kira to the wedding? We ended things years ago, and she's been nothing but supportive. But if it makes you uncomfortable, I totally understand." Laura looked at me for a moment, then smiled. "If it's important to you, I'm okay with it." I even double-checked. "Are you sure? It really doesn't have to be a big deal." She nodded. "Really? It's fine." So I invited Kira. She RSVP'd yes, said she was happy for us. And that was that. Or at least, I thought it was. Last week, I got a message from Kira that made my stomach drop. "Hey, I just got an email from your wedding site. It says my RSVP has been canceled, and I'm no longer on the guest list. Did I do something wrong?" I was confused. I hadn't changed anything. So I logged into the system, and sure enough, her name was gone. Just gone. As if she had never been invited. I went to Laura, calmly, and asked, "Did you remove Kira from the guest list?" She didn't deny it. In fact, she barely hesitated. "Yes, I did. I know I said it was okay. I tried to be cool about it. But the closer we get to the wedding, the more I realized I don't want her there. I didn't want to start a fight with you, so I just made the decision quietly. I was stunned. Not just because she changed her mind. People are allowed to change their minds. But because she didn't talk to me about it. She didn't even hint that something was bothering her. I told her, "Look, you could have just told me. We could have had a real conversation. But instead, you went behind my back and made a choice for both of us." And then she said something I'll never forget. "You don't get to put your ex's comfort above my boundaries on our wedding day." And that's when I realized, this isn't just about a guest list. It's about trust. And maybe even about control. On both sides. Now, things are tense. We haven't really talked about it again. I've been sleeping in the guest room for a few nights just to cool off. Kira is understandably embarrassed and hurt. She asked if she did something wrong. I told her no, but I didn't have the heart to explain everything. And I'm here, stuck between the woman I love and a version of honesty I thought we had. So I'm asking Reddit, am I the asshole for inviting my ex to my wedding and confronting my fiancé for uninviting her behind my back? This isn't really a story about an ex. It's not even about a wedding guest list. What we're witnessing here is something much deeper and far more familiar than many of us might admit. It's a story about trust, emotional safety, and the silent space between two people who love each other, but didn't say what they really meant. Let's start with the groom. From his perspective, he did everything right. Or at least he thought he did. He communicated early. He asked for his fiancé's input. He gave her the power to say no, and when she said yes, he took her at her word. No sneaking, no guilt, no ulterior motives. His relationship with his ex wasn't hidden. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't emotional anymore. It was a quiet, respectful friendship, one rooted in the past, but not living in the present. And so, in his mind, the act of inviting her wasn't a betrayal. It was a gesture of honesty, a sign that he didn't feel the need to erase the past to honor his future. But the problem is, honesty doesn't always equal sensitivity. He was transparent, yes, but maybe he wasn't listening close enough. Now, let's look at the bride. Laura said she was fine. She smiled. She agreed. She didn't fight the idea, didn't raise her voice. But over time, a quiet unease began to grow, and she never said a word. Maybe it started as a small discomfort. Maybe she told herself, "It's not a big deal. I trust him. It's his past." But then the dress fittings happened. The RSVP list got longer. She started imagining the ceremony, the photos, the speeches, and somewhere in those visions was her fiancé's ex, smiling, toasting, watching, and it didn't feel okay, but instead of speaking up, she stayed quiet. Because deep down, maybe she feared she would sound insecure. Or worse, controlling, needy. That kind of woman. So, she did the one thing she felt she could control. She removed the problem, quietly, efficiently, and without discussion. And here's the heartbreaking part. She wasn't trying to hurt anyone. She was trying to protect herself, in the only way she knew how. The real issue? They weren't speaking the same emotional language. He believed openness meant everything was fine. She believed silence was the price of keeping peace. And both of them, in their own ways, avoided the hard conversation that needed to happen. He assumed permission meant comfort. She assumed discomfort had to be endured alone. So who's at fault here? Some will say, he asked. She agreed. If she had a problem, she should have spoken up. Others will argue, he shouldn't have put her in that position to begin with. The wedding is about both of them, not about honoring the past, But maybe it's not about right or wrong. Maybe it's about timing, language, and the pressure we put on ourselves to be the chill partner, when what we really need is just to feel heard. So let's ask the real question. When you're building a life with someone, how do you balance past relationships with present commitments? Is it fair to ask your partner to be okay with your ex, even if there's no lingering emotion? And if someone says yes when they really mean, "I'm not sure," does that lie belong to them? Or to the person who didn't read between the lines? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. The most insightful reflections will be featured in our next episode. Because sometimes the cracks in a relationship don't come from secrets. They come from the things we're too afraid to say, until it's too late. When this story hit Reddit, the responses were instant and divided. Not because anyone cheated, not because anyone lied outright, but because both people in the relationship had valid emotions and opposite approaches. Some saw a man trying to be open and honest. Others saw a woman pushed into discomfort and silence. But almost everyone agreed. Something went unspoken for far too long. Side 1. Not the asshole. He did everything right. This group strongly defended the groom. To them, he communicated clearly, acted in good faith, and was blindsided by a secret decision. They didn't believe the issue was the ex. They believed the issue was the lack of mutual honesty. Top Reddit comments: support for the groom. He asked, she said yes, then she acted behind his back. That's not a boundary, that's manipulation. At Talk Before You Act, plus 27.3 thousand upvotes. She could have said, "I've changed my mind." Instead, she deleted someone like she was canceling a subscription. Mutual respect matters. 24.1 thousand upvotes. If she was uncomfortable, she owed it to him to say something. By making that choice silently, she didn't protect their wedding. She damaged their foundation. At Marriage is Teamwork, plus 20.8 thousand upvotes. This comment resonated with thousands. It acknowledged that both acted out of love, not malice, but made assumptions that widened the distance between them. Final reflection. Where do you stand? So here's what we ask you. If someone gives permission with a smile, but you sense hesitation underneath, is it your responsibility to check again? Or is it their job to be honest? And when discomfort builds silently, is it ever okay to take action without discussion? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. As always, we'll highlight the most thoughtful responses in our next story, because sometimes the real issue isn't who's on the guest list, it's who gets to speak up and who stays quiet, just to keep the peace. I proposed to my girlfriend with a family ring, and she secretly had it replaced. I'm a 33-year-old man, and I recently married the woman I believed was the love of my life. Erin, 30 degrees Fahrenheit. We dated for 4 years. She's smart, beautiful, driven. We had our ups and downs like every couple, but when I proposed last year, I truly thought we were solid. For the proposal, I didn't buy a brand new ring. Instead, I used my grandmother's engagement ring. It's been in my family for over 80 years, passed from my great-grandmother to my grandmother, and then held for me after she passed. It's vintage, not enormous, but it has character. An oval-cut sapphire framed with 2 small diamonds on a gold band. To me, it was irreplaceable. When I gave it to Erin, she hesitated for just a second. I thought maybe she was just overwhelmed. She said yes. She cried. She wore the ring and even posted it on Instagram with the caption, "He proposed with his grandmother's ring." I'm honored to wear something with such history. I felt proud, touched, like I was continuing a legacy. Fast forward to a few months before our wedding. I noticed something strange. Erin started avoiding wearing the ring when we were with her friends. She'd say it didn't match her outfit, or that it was being cleaned, or that it was too delicate for certain occasions. I asked once, "Is everything okay with the ring?" She smiled, kissed me, and said, "Of course. I love it. I just want to make sure it stays in good shape." I didn't press further. Until the wedding day. My mom pulled me aside before the ceremony. She looked confused, upset. She asked, "Did you change the ring you gave Erin?" I was thrown. "What do you mean?" She showed me a close-up photo Erin had posted the night before. The wedding ring reveal shot. It was not my grandmother's ring. The design was completely different. Round, brilliant diamond, platinum band, halo setting. Very modern, very expensive looking. My heart dropped. I confronted Erin right after the ceremony, in private. I asked, "What happened to my grandmother's ring?" Her expression changed instantly, from smiling bride to stiff, defensive. She said, "It didn't suit me. It was old. The style was outdated, and I wanted something that reflected us, not just your past." I asked again, "So, what did you do with it?" She looked away. "I traded it in, toward the new one." I couldn't breathe. I asked, "You didn't even tell me? You took a family heirloom and just replaced it?" Her response? "It's still our ring now. I'm still your wife. I just wanted something I could be proud to wear, and I didn't want to hurt your feelings before the wedding." I walked out of the room. I sat in the dressing area of the venue for almost half an hour, wondering what the hell just happened. I haven't told anyone except my mom. I haven't even told my dad yet. That ring meant so much to him, too. We just got back from our honeymoon, and every time I look at her finger, I don't see love anymore. I see a secret, a decision that I wasn't a part of. I haven't confronted her again. I don't even know what I want to say. I'm just stuck between betrayal and embarrassment. So I turn to Reddit. Am I the asshole for being furious that my wife secretly replaced my grandmother's engagement ring and didn't tell me until after we were already married? This isn't just about a ring. It's about what we choose to carry forward and what we leave behind. It's about how love sometimes collides with legacy and how silence can cut deeper than disagreement. Let's look at the husband's side. For him, this ring wasn't just jewelry. It wasn't about the size of the stone or how trendy it looked. It was history, a connection to his grandmother, to his family, to the women who came before him. By proposing with that ring, he wasn't just asking her to marry him, he was inviting her into the continuity of his story. He trusted her with something irreplaceable. And she didn't say no. She didn't ask to talk about it. She didn't even return it. She made a unilateral decision, quietly, permanently. And he found out, not through honesty, but through a photo online and a question from his mother. From his perspective, this wasn't just disrespect. It was erasure. Now let's consider her side. To Erin, that ring was a symbol. Yes, but not one that she felt proud to wear. Maybe she looked at it and didn't see beauty. Maybe she saw weight, pressure, a legacy she didn't choose, but now had to perform. Maybe she feared that saying something would make her seem shallow, ungrateful, or even worse, disloyal. And so, instead of voicing her discomfort, she chose action over confrontation. She told herself, "I'll wear something I love, something that feels like us. It's still a symbol of commitment. It's still our ring." But what she forgot was that symbols only work when both people believe in them. And by removing his ring without his knowledge, she also removed his place in that moment. So where did it all go wrong? Not in the preference for a different ring, not even in the decision to replace it. It went wrong in the silence, in the assumption that she could rewrite part of their story without telling him. And it went wrong in the belief that intentions matter more than transparency. Because here's the truth. Even the most beautiful ring means nothing if it's built on a foundation of withheld truth. So we ask you, was she wrong for swapping the ring? Or just wrong for keeping it a secret? Was he too emotionally attached to an object? Or completely justified in feeling betrayed? Or was this one of those moments where no one meant to hurt the other, but the silence did the damage anyway? Share your perspective in the comments. The most honest responses will be featured in our next story. Because sometimes, it's not the stone that shatters, it's the silence that cracks everything open. When this story reached Reddit, the community lit up, because this wasn't just about jewelry. It was about honor, choice, and whether love means accepting tradition or redefining it. Two perspectives immediately emerged, both passionate, both deeply personal. Side 1. Not the asshole. He gave her history, she gave him secrecy. This group stood firmly behind the husband. They believed he acted with full transparency, while she acted with quiet control. And in their eyes, what she did wasn't just disrespectful. It was a violation of trust. Top Reddit comments. She didn't just replace a ring, she erased a memory that didn't belong to her. And she did it without a single conversation. That's not love. That's manipulation. At Heirloom Hurt, plus 32.8 thousand upvotes. It doesn't matter if the ring fit her style. It wasn't about fashion, it was about family. She knew that. She just didn't care. At Legacy Not Style, plus 28.1 thousand upvotes. If she'd talked to him, maybe they could have found a compromise. But by going behind his back, she made it her story, not their story. At No Secrets in Marriage, plus 24.4 thousand upvotes. To this group, the real betrayal wasn't the ring, it was the lack of consent in altering something that didn't belong to just her. Side 2. YTA, it's her hand, her ring, her right to choose. On the other hand, a vocal group supported the wife. They argued that the ring, while sentimental, should still feel right for the person wearing it every day for the rest of her life. In their view, he made an emotional gesture, but ignored how she actually felt. Top Reddit comments. You gave her something meaningful to you, but never asked if it was meaningful to her. She accepted it out of politeness. You mistook that for joy. At Wear What You Love, plus 21.7 thousand upvotes. How many women want to wear a dull, outdated ring just to protect someone else's feelings? At Not Just Symbolism, plus 19.3 thousand upvotes, not something she tolerates. At Modern Wife Modern Ring, plus 18.5 thousand upvotes. Supporters of the bride argue that a marriage isn't a museum, that honoring the past is important, but not at the cost of the woman's voice being left out of the present. Neutral take. Neither is the villain, but the damage is done. He thought she loved the ring. She thought she had no choice but to pretend. In a perfect world, they would have had the hard conversation. Instead, they each acted out of fear, not respect. At Silent Misalignment, plus 30.2 thousand upvotes. This comment resonated most with the community, not because it blamed one side, but because it named what hurt them both: silence, assumption, and a lack of emotional safety. Final question. Who do you think was wrong? Was he betrayed, or did he assume too much? Was she dishonest, or just overwhelmed by pressure and trying to choose herself? Drop your perspective in the comments. We'll feature the most thoughtful, nuanced replies in our next episode. Because sometimes, it's not the object we lose, it's the meaning we thought we shared. My wife invited her ex on our honeymoon and swore I was overreacting. Honeymoons are supposed to be sacred, a time for two people to unwind, unplug, and start their forever in peace. But what happens when that forever shows up with a +1? And not just any +1, her ex-boyfriend. In today's story from r/Am I the Asshole, a newlywed couple lands on a private island resort for their honeymoon. Champagne, sunsets, romantic dinners, and then, suddenly, a surprise guest walks in. A man she used to love. A man she never mentioned once during the wedding planning. A man who, according to her, just happened to be there. But was it really just coincidence? Or did this honeymoon come with more baggage than he ever agreed to carry? Here's the full story. I'm a 32-year-old man, and just 2 weeks ago, I married the woman I thought was the absolute love of my life. Maya, 30 degrees Fahrenheit. We'd been together for a little over 3 years. She's vibrant, spontaneous, and a bit impulsive, but that's part of what I loved about her. She made life feel electric. Our wedding was beautiful. Close family, a garden ceremony, candlelight dinner under the stars, the works. We spent months planning our honeymoon, finally deciding on a secluded beachfront resort in the Maldives. No phones, no stress, no distractions. At least, that was the idea. We arrived on a Sunday afternoon, checked in, got our welcome drinks, and were taken to our private villa. The place was unreal. Infinity pool, ocean view, open roof shower. It felt like paradise. That night, we had a romantic dinner on the sand, just the two of us. I genuinely remember thinking, I've never been happier in my life. But then came Monday. Around noon, Maya said she wanted to head down to the beach bar while I took a nap. No problem. I was jet-lagged. She wanted some sun. 30 minutes later, I woke up thirsty and decided to join her. I walked down to the bar, scanning the lounge chairs, and saw her. Sitting with some guy, laughing over mojitos. At first, I didn't think much of it. She's friendly. Maybe someone she just met. But when I got closer, her smile froze. She stood up quickly and said, "Hey, you're awake. I was just catching up." I looked at the guy. He looked back at me and smiled. "You must be the lucky husband." And then Maya dropped the bomb. "This is Jordan. We used to date a long time ago. Total coincidence he's here, right?" My stomach twisted. I said, "Wait, you ran into your ex on our honeymoon, and you just sat down for drinks like it's totally normal?" Maya rolled her eyes. "Come on, don't make it a thing. I was just being polite. We only talked for a bit. It's not a big deal." I wanted to believe her. I really did. But something felt off. Later that night, I couldn't sleep. I had this weird feeling, like something wasn't adding up. So I did something I normally wouldn't do. I checked her messages while she was showering. I found a chat thread titled J, and in it, weeks before the wedding, were messages like, "Can't wait to see you there. Don't make it awkward. He'll never know." It's not like we're doing anything wrong. My heart sank. I confronted her the next morning. She didn't even deny it. She admitted she had told Jordan where we'd be, and they had just planned to bump into each other casually, so she could prove she was really over it. I said, "You invited your ex to our honeymoon." "For closure," she said, "not invited. Just included." He's not staying with us. It was just for a quick hello. You're totally overreacting. I packed my bags that afternoon, took the next flight back alone. She stayed an extra 4 days. With friends, she said. I haven't spoken to her since. Now I'm sitting in my apartment, the one I didn't move out of when we got married, and wondering if I made a mistake by leaving. She's texting me nonstop, saying I ruined something that didn't have to be a big deal, that I was insecure, that I read into it too much. But to me, our honeymoon wasn't the place to test her self-control. So Reddit, I ask you, am I the asshole for walking out on our honeymoon after learning my wife arranged to see her ex behind my back? This story isn't just about a surprise encounter. It's about boundaries, trust, and the moment you realize that the person you married might not understand what commitment really means. Because let's be clear, this wasn't an accident. It wasn't fate. It was a planned appearance by someone from her past during one of the most sacred moments of her present. Let's start with his side. For him, the honeymoon wasn't just a trip. It was a symbolic transition, a private, intimate space to start a life together. And to have that invaded, not by a stranger, not by coincidence, but by someone she used to love, wasn't just awkward. It felt like betrayal. What stung the most wasn't even that the ex showed up. It was that she lied by omission. She had weeks, if not months, to tell him, "Hey, I've been talking to my ex. He might be there." But she didn't. And when he found out, she called him insecure. In that moment, he wasn't just blindsided. He was being gaslit, made to feel crazy for reacting to something she orchestrated. That's not closure. That's emotional manipulation. Now, let's consider her side, even if it's difficult. Maybe Maya genuinely believed this would be harmless. Maybe she wanted to prove, to herself or to Jordan, that she had moved on, that she was truly happy now. Maybe she felt like she had unfinished business, and seeing her ex would be the final thread she needed to cut. But here's the problem. That wasn't her decision to make alone. The moment she chose secrecy over honesty, she shifted the power in their marriage and made her husband feel like a guest in his own honeymoon. Marriage isn't about pretending you're perfect. It's about trusting someone enough to share the messy parts, and she didn't do that. So what's the real issue here? It's not just that her ex showed up. It's that she planned it and made sure her husband didn't know. She believed it wouldn't matter. But by hiding it, she proved that, deep down, she knew it did. So now we ask you, was the husband right to walk away? Not just from the honeymoon, but possibly from the relationship? Or was he too reactive, throwing away a marriage over one emotional mistake? Or maybe this isn't about right or wrong. Maybe it's about learning, the hard way, that love without boundaries isn't love. It's chaos. Let us know what you think in the comments. Your insight might help someone who's facing their own version of this moment right now. Because sometimes, it's not the ex that ruins a relationship. It's the fact that they were ever invited in. When this story went live on Reddit, the comments section exploded. Because this wasn't just about an ex showing up. This was about boundaries being crossed and trust being quietly shattered. On what should have been one of the happiest weeks of their lives. Side 1. Not the asshole. He did what anyone would. This group stood firmly behind the groom. To them, this wasn't a small mistake or a harmless encounter. It was a premeditated lie, one that disrespected both the relationship and the sacredness of the honeymoon. Top Reddit comments. Your honeymoon is not a stage for your wife to prove she's over her ex. It's a place to celebrate the person you're with. You were right to leave. At Honeymoon means 2 plus 38.7K upvotes. She called it a coincidence, but there were messages. She planned this. That's not insecure. That's betrayal. At Trust I Cerned plus 34.2 thousand upvotes. Any form of closure that involves deception is not closure. It's manipulation. At Gaslight Getaway plus 29.4 thousand upvotes. This side believes he was absolutely right to walk away. Not because he was weak, but because he was clear-headed enough to recognize that the other person didn't respect his boundaries. Side 2. YTA, you ruined the honeymoon over one mistake. But not everyone agreed. A smaller, but passionate, group argued that Maya's actions, while misguided, came from a place of insecurity, not malice, and that leaving her alone on the honeymoon was an overreaction. Top Reddit comments: she didn't cheat. She didn't meet up secretly. She made a bad call, but you could have talked through it instead of abandoning her. Talk first, leave later. Plotty 17.5K upvotes. If your first move is to pack your bags, maybe you weren't ready for marriage either. Emotions need context. 14.8K upvotes. But relationships are messy. If you loved her, you should have given her a chance to make it right. At Not Perfect Still Worth It, plus 13.2 thousand upvotes. To them, the hurt is real, but forgiveness is also a part of marriage. Neutral take. Everyone lost when she chose silence. She lied to avoid conflict. He left because the trust was already gone. They both made choices driven by fear, not partnership. At Fearware's Linen plus 40.1 thousand upvotes. When neither person dares to face the truth, love can't move forward, no matter who's right or wrong. Final question to the audience. So what would you have done? Would you walk away the moment trust is broken? Or would you stay and try to repair what shattered? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We'll feature the most thoughtful replies in our next episode. Because sometimes, the moment you say, "I do," is followed by a moment that asks, "But do you really know who you married?"